I am Planning Board Chair, Bill Spalding, and Matt Lowry is our Vice Chair, and he's the co-host for this evening. So we're still staying consistent with the governor's orders, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 10 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to the meeting in real time. And it goes on to explain a little bit the link and all that. So on tonight's agenda, we have a few items and we'll discuss them as we go along. But at this time, I'd like to call the Town of Wakefield Planning Board meeting for February 9th, 2021 to order. The second item on tonight's agenda is approval of minutes. Have the board, all the board members get a chance to review the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Any comments or questions, corrections? Entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the minutes of January 26, 2021 of the Planning Board.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Megan. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Bill, you in favor? Yeah. Good. I got your hand. Okay, good. Thank you. Item number 3, public hearing, articles proposed to amend zoning bylaws. Bill Conley, are you here this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Planning Board. Aaron? Did you hear that?
Yes, can hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
So we received a message from Mr. Conley last week to extend the public hearing to March 9th. But to follow open meeting laws in the public hearing, he's here this evening and we're here this evening. If anybody has any comments or questions regarding the articles proposed to amend the zoning bylaws, but the meeting, if I understand correctly, Mr. Conley, not quite ready with everything, but we'll be ready for March 9th.
Yeah, that would still be our request.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's prudent. We'd like more time. There's some positive developments, positive conversations being held. Notwithstanding, we still need to address the articles, and we'll be prepared to the 9th of March, if we can be granted that continuation, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Any planning board members have any comments or questions for Bill?
No, the only question I have is, Bill, you are definitely going to submit an article to the selectmen for inclusion in town meeting. Is that correct? Or?
I'd have to say indefinite, Matt. We hope to be continuing discussion with the developer. We're in productive conversation, more productive conversation than we have. Depending on what that looks like, we will then certainly look at the need for an article, I guess I could put it. At this point, we'd like to leave options open, looking for the best possible solution for the, lake area development for the town and for the lake users. So we appreciate your flexibility in extending this. I know we put a lot of work in, but as I look at it and our board looks at it, I think an extension to move further along and see what develops is the best way to go. So. Yeah, right. I think I can only hedge on that answer, Matt, but we'll be more definitive, hopefully very, very soon.
Okay, that's fine. You saw that the deadline for submitting an article. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think I do have the dates. And procedurally, we would be going back to the selectmen, and it would be heard again by your board. I suspect, there's some consideration that we're hoping to do in this month to look at an amendment that might be appropriate when we get back to it. So I think we're fortunate to have that time. We still should be able to meet schedules, whatever that might be, whatever the required schedules might be. And we'll look forward to it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, obviously we're having a public hearing now for the original article that was proposed. I think if you change, if you go forward with it within that framework, I think there won't be an issue. But if I think there are major changes to the article, it may call for a new public hearing. I just want to make sure you have enough time, that we're not, under the gun again, trying to have public hearings with the appropriate timeframes just before the town meeting. That's all.
No, I appreciate the heads up. Well taken. And I think we'll be in good standing relative to schedules and requirements.
All right, good.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I'm just looking at dates. The meeting date for town meeting was set for May 8th at the high school. Matt, what was the date, the deadline for the article?
I thought it was around the 30th of March. I don't have that email right in front of me right now.
Yeah, I was just looking for it too.
Yeah, I believe it's March 31st. I'll confirm right now. But yeah, I believe it's March 31st.
Right.
All right. I was kind of hoping that on that, when they set that date and sent the email out, that they would have put a notation that, depending on what's submitted, if it needs public hearing, additional time may be required. I wish, in the future, when they send that out, they put a little disclaimer that, if zoning change is it's gonna require extra time for the council to basically accept it and then send it along to us, and for us to have time to advertise and properly have enough meetings. So, but
I'll make note of that.
all right.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Any other board members have any comments regarding the zoning article? Okay. And just to make sure, is there anybody from the public that has any comments or questions regarding the proposed zoning amendment? We just had a comment too. If you are joining and you didn't hear, the next public hearing will be scheduled for March 9th.
Bill, hi, this is Chris Crone.
Hi, Chris.
From 114 Main Street. I did have just a clarification point. The March 31st deadline that was mentioned, is that the deadline if there are amendments to the article to address, for example, the zoning, the impact on the Sheridan or whatnot? Is that March 31st deadline the deadline by which to get those amendments in, or is there a different deadline if there is going to be amendments to the articles?
Well, it would be the 31st, if that is, and Aaron's going to verify that. That would be the deadline for what reads on the town warrant, the town meeting warrant. So however the article is written for that deadline, that's what will appear on the town warrant. It doesn't mean we can't schedule a planning board meeting after that, and we can't get our recommendations in to town council after that. Does that answer the question?
I just do want to point out that, you know, if it's a whole new article or something that is out of the framework of what was originally proposed, it may mean a new posting for a public hearing, which means putting it in the paper. You've got the 2 weeks it has to be in there. So there's a lead time. We'd have to work backwards from when our scheduled meetings are, when town council meets, sort of the same way that this last town meeting worked out. So I'm not going to say that by that date that we wouldn't have enough time, but without sitting down and actually going through the whole process, I'm just giving a word of warning. That's all.
No, and I appreciate that. I guess what I'm trying to figure out, Matt, is what that means in terms of the actual deadline here. So if there is going to be an amendment to the article to address perhaps some sort of a proximity restrictor to the lake, as was discussed in the prior meetings, is it your opinion that type of limitation would require a new public notice? And if so, would the 2-week public notice function start or be triggered by the next zoning board meeting, planning board meeting, as in March 9th or March 31st? I just want to make sure I understand what deadlines we're working with.
So what I think, if say it was a full map change amendment, or you wanted to change zones or something like that, then I believe, and this is just my speculation, that it would be a new article that probably should be publicized. So I think that whatever that text would have to be submitted to the town council, they would have to refer to us. Once it's referred to us, we would set a public hearing date, and then we'd have to advertise. So that's where the lead time comes in. So, and how much this article that's before us changes before it's out of basically out of context, I don't know. I can't say. I don't know who would say that, to tell you the truth, but I just caution that, if we get too far out of bounds, it may be, thrown out on a technicality.
So just to make sure I have it right too. So if the article does change to a point where it's not the same article, it would need to be sent to town council for reapproval. And then once town council approves it at one of their Monday night meetings, so it's important to look at their meeting schedule as well. They will push it to our meeting. We'll have it on the agenda. And then we will set date for public hearing at that meeting, which does take the 2 weeks. So Chris, just to ballpark that, it's possible that it's 3 weeks from when town council approves it till we have our meeting, depending on how it would fall on the schedule.
Okay, all right. And the next scheduled planning board meeting is March 9th, you said?
No, February. We have our meeting the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. So we still have one in February. March 9th was the date that Mr. Conley pushed the public hearing to. So the 23rd of February will be our next meeting for the planning board. And then it would be the 9th and the 23rd of March. And then April would be the 13th and 27th.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. it would be important, obviously, to check the town council schedule as well.
Got it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from the public?
Mr. Chair, this is Jonathan Chines from the Town Council. I just wanted to, while we're talking about dates, let the group know that the first council meeting after the deadline for the article submission is Monday, April 12th.
Thank you very much. I did not want to put you on the spot, but thank you.
I was looking at my calendar, just making sure that I had it in front of me, but it is April 12th.
While you are speaking, could you confirm the deadline is the 31st for articles to be?
I can. I looked that up. It is March 31st at 4:30 p.m.
Oh, perfect.
I can, yeah, I'll send that around to everyone from Sherry.
Yep.
Steve's assistant, if you didn't get it.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Mr. Chair, I'm
Yes.
Brian McGrail. If I could just add, I mean, everybody's been working on this together. I think there's plenty of time just to alleviate confusion, because what it says is on the town website that any article would have to be submitted to the town administrator by March 31st.
Okay.
So, I know Mr. Conley's working hard on this, and I think, so probably what would happen is, let's say, as Chris Kroon said, that they come up with a modification to deal with the Sheridan, which was talked about. I'm sure Tom Mullen would be happy to look at that, to
Right.
say, gee, that's within the four corners. You don't need to have a different public hearing or notice, and that can go on within this context. Or if he said, at or before March 9th, that, oh no, that's going to require a new notice, then there'd be plenty of time for the Friends to file something new with the town administrator's office before March 31.
Okay.
From the way I look at it. The only reason I say that is I don't want people to leave thinking, that they have pressure on them, because everybody's trying, I think, to row in the same direction.
Thanks, Brian.
Hope that helps.
Yeah. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I do
Yeah.
not see any hands up.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask just a question?
Yes, if you could state your name and your address.
Sure. Theo Knoll, 8 Fernwood Road. I'm wondering if the original language and or the amended language, is that publicly available? I think it goes back to what, November?
Yes, the original language was in the town warrant from the fall. And I'm not sure if that's still on the town website. It might be. And the language, that's the language that was kept. And as we've gone through our meetings, you can go to our meeting recordings that are on the website. Just to.
No, thank you very much. I have
Right.
been looking at those, so that's just
Right on our website, you can see the meeting videos.
Mhm.
And over here on the right side, where the little hamburger is, little burger, if you click on that, you can go through the previous videos.
Okay. No, thank
And,
you. It's useful.
Just to save you some time, what was the last meeting that we discussed? Two meetings, was it the first meeting in January? So the January 12th.
And I quickly just looked, it is on our website, and if I'm able to, I don't think I can put it in the chat box, but I can follow up with that as well. It's on the town warrant.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, just to finish this item up, let me, am I sharing it correctly? There we go. So the next meeting, the public hearing will continue on March 9th at 7 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
The next item this evening, item number 4, set surety for Glendale Ave extension.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail here on behalf of Heritage Builders. Joe Sirianello is here also. He's the principal of Heritage Builders. And it relates to the one lot subdivision on Glendale Ave extension that we are looking to set the surety so that Mr. Sirianello can work to get some improvements done to the point that the building inspector could then issue a building permit for the home to be built. Currently, the lot is secured by a Form G covenant with the board, and Mr. Sirianello cannot apply for a building permit until that's released. This is similar to the one that we recently did on the Ossipee Lane part of this project on the other side, where the board set surety, the bank signed on, it was approved by town council, it released the lot. So it could be construction could commence. So that's what we're looking to do on Glendale. Joe has had an opportunity to meet with the engineering department of the town of Wakefield. And they have, the engineering department has come up with an estimate that I believe that they submitted to your board. I have it on my screen. If you'd like me to bring that up, I'm happy to do so.
I would. You should be able to share now.
Okay. Here you go. Can you see that?
Yes.
So this is to you from Eric Sherman, town engineer, copying head town engineer Bill Renault. Bond for remaining work on Glendale Ave. And this itemizes it for a total of $25,000. So we're requesting that the board approve that surety in the form of a tri-party agreement that would be signed by the board, by the builder, Mr. Sirianello, Heritage Builders, and his bank to secure that money, to make sure that that money is there to do the roadway work in the event he fails to do so.
Thank you, Attorney McGrail. I have no questions regarding this. Any board members have questions? Comments?
I'm just gonna validate that Joanne and I were not part of the board when we made the decisions on Glendale Ave, I believe is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Good
So
point.
I'm just voicing that so that I will abstain from voting.
Well, just for something like this, just so you guys know, this is a procedural thing, so you don't really need to abstain for something like this.
Okay.
Just, just so you're aware. So anything in the work going on there, if you guys, I don't think we'd be taking votes on anything, but you can participate in everything. So.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Any comments regarding the surety?
As long as the engineering department went over it, I don't have an issue with it, so I'm not going to question.
Right. I do like that there's line items, and for example, the 12-inch reinforced concrete pipe, so you can see its part. That's nice. Not just one bulk number. Anything else to add, Attorney McGrail?
Only that, Heritage does phenomenal work. They're working very diligently. They're working with the neighbors. The construction on Ossipee is going excellent. I talked to some of the neighbors who I stay in touch with. They're very happy with what's transpiring, and Joe's always accommodating to neighbors, and he's just a great builder. So,
thanks. To make a motion to accept. Do we have to make a motion for this? Correct? To accept the surety?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the surety as outlined by the DPW department, and authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the board.
Second, anyone?
I'll second it.
All in favor? All right, I see hands. Good. Second by Joanne. All in favor? Unanimous. If we Brian, if you want to set up a time for me to sign it. And if an electronic signature is allowed, we can do that too.
Yeah, so this, what I will do is I'll send, as we did last time, I'll draft the surety agreement. I'll send it to you and to town council, Tom Mullen.
Yep.
And then he will either make changes as he deems fit or approve it. And then once that's done, then we'll get the signature for the bank and arrange to get your signature and Joe's signature and then record it at the registry of deeds.
Okay.
It will require a wet signature. The
Okay.
registry will not take DocuSign documents for recording.
Okay. And if this, just schedule wise, next week is vacation week, kids wise, I will be around on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I just want to point out something. Now's probably a good time. I went out to the site on the request of the engineer out there. As you know, we've been trying to work on saving some trees out there, and the builder and the engineer have been very accommodating and, you know, upfront on everything going on. There's that one tree that we have all been talking about for, it seems like years now, that the Concom came and also showed an interest in trying to save. And the builder originally thought that he could save it, and he did some tree protection out there. I got a call from an engineer who said it doesn't look like they can save it at this point. So he wanted me to take a look. I met with Joe, and Joe thinks that if he can adjust the position of the house, which I told him should not be an issue, since, you know, the position of the house is really not locked in by this board. It's as long as it fits within the setbacks and is generally, you know, the same as was presented to us, and all the drainage components work, that shouldn't be an issue. So he was going to work on adjusting the house some in order to save that tree, which I know is going to go a long way with members of this board, another board that really doesn't have jurisdiction but is looking at it, and with the engineer and the builder. So I just want to applaud everyone for working together out there. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Matt. It's good to hear.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask, I think Joe might be able to give the board an update on that. Joe, if you could.
That's fine. Joe?
Oh, Joe, we can't hear you.
Sorry, you are muted. I might be able to unmute him.
Joe, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, am I there now?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Thought I
right.
was. I could hear you, but I guess you couldn't hear me. Sorry. Yeah, I've been in touch with Hannigan Engineering, and I think, talking to Matt, I think it was Friday.
Yeah.
We discussed that possibly just shifting the house over approximately anywhere from 5 to 10 feet. It could be a couple feet, it could be 9 feet, but I'm thinking just we're going to try to go the minimum, but we just don't want somebody backing out of the garage and into the tree. And that'll be all the wasted time of saving a tree if they're going to keep hitting it coming out of the garage. So,
Right.
but shifting it shouldn't be a problem, and turning it, we have plenty of room for the offsets, for the setbacks on that side, and the drainage should not be affected. So we haven't come up with a solid number yet, but talking to Matt, you know, if he was okay with it, and if it means saving the tree, then that's what I'll do. Because that was my intention from the beginning, and not knowing that the garage would end up being not right in front of it, but if you're facing the house, the left side garage door would be just in the corner. The tree would be right in the corner of it. So shifting it will work out just fine.
And we've got the room to do it zoning wise, so I think it's going to work.
Yeah, we got plenty of room. So,
Excellent. Thanks.
and I appreciate Matt coming out Friday to meet with me so we could resolve it before the meeting tonight.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Brian, if you can stop your share. Thanks. Anything else to discuss on this item? I think we're good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too.
Item number 5, items not anticipated by chair. Well, just to follow up, and this is something Matt and I can discuss. Paul Donaco, Town Councilor Paul Donaco asked Matt and I to work with him to help figure out the Butler Ave property. So the quick history is Butler Ave went into A&R subdivision preliminary. It went all through the stages for subdivision, but the land was then found out to have contamination on it. So it went in front of town council. They figured it out. Town meeting voted 2/3 to purchase the property. So the town owns the land. And Paul Donaco met with Matt and I to discuss what the options were for an open space plan, open space development, and how that could work, meaning like a cluster development in there with one road and a couple of houses with a certain amount of square footages per lot, and how that could fit. It was pretty tight because we met, and Matt and I didn't really get a chance to meet last week. We kept missing each other. So we didn't get back to Paul with a plan on how that would work out as far as an actual process. Paul was asking for not really a plan saying this is what it should be like, but a plan meaning a process. Like if a developer were to purchase this property from the town, would there be a process through the planning board going through the open space development, which is in our bylaws, to allow us to not fast track, but that there's a clean process to go through the planning board. It doesn't mean that the ZBA wouldn't have stuff to add to it in a meeting, but it would mean that there wouldn't be a special permit. It wouldn't be anything that would be, that would trigger a special permit, I should say. Matt, do you want to add anything to that?
No, well, basically, if we do go through an open space process, that would mean it would not actually have to go to the ZBA at all. That any relief in zoning and site issues could be granted by this board. So potentially it could be streamlined a little bit and make it an attractive site for a developer to go in there and do something that is a little bit out of the ordinary in town. So,
right.
And it preserves a good portion of that space, which is the whole purpose of the open space subdivision process.
And Paul needed a plan from us by Friday. And again, Matt and I did not pull together a plan for him. So we'll wait to hear the next step for that. If we are, as a planning board, will be involved. I do have one more item.
May I ask a question?
I'm sorry, who is this?
I'm sorry, Bronwyn Delavolpe, I have my hand up.
Okay, sorry.
No, quite all right.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the Butler Ave.
Could you state your address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bronwyn Delavolpe, 8 Cyrus Street.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about Butler Ave. When you talk about the open space with a couple of houses, can you just go into a little bit more detail about what that would entail?
No, we didn't get into any detail on it. So no, I don't have any more detail about what that would be. You can look at the open space development zoning that we have set up where it's a certain amount of square footage per lot. And those lots would be placed in more of a cluster, meaning they would be adjacent to each other, keeping more open space around it and having less developed part of the site. And there's percentages in there that would be too. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Yes, I understand that part, but what I was asking is, what would that open space be for? Is that for the people who own the houses?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. The open space would be probably for the wildlife that runs around there right now. It would be space that would not be able to be disturbed. it would be space that on the south side of this is still open as wetlands. And then the contamination site is between really the wetlands and where the site could be buildable on that southern middle side of it.
So
I
where
could-
where the house is currently located, in reference to that, where's the contamination?
It's south of that, right up
Okay.
against the wetlands. As far as we know, we don't know the extent of the contamination, honestly.
Okay.
Matt, I'm sorry, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I can just say from my point of view that with the last open space subdivision that was done, I would make sure that any open space up there would be open to the general public and not be held just for the residents, because I just don't think that worked out too well in the last open space subdivision that
Was that Carriage Lane?
without naming names, I would say would probably be that place, yes.
Oh, okay, because my understanding during that whole process was the open space is open to the public, and
Mhm.
I can't actually see myself or anyone else going up to Carriage Lane and sitting in what feels like someone's yard.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, that I think there should be some clear rules or delineations or understandings or something, because that's really a nice wooded area up there off Butler Ave, and
Right.
maybe even have, if it goes through, of course, something visually designated for the public, because otherwise it's really just in name only and not usable space by the public, because as I use the Carriage Lane as an example, no one's going to go up there and sit in their yard.
I agree. And Mr. Donaco brought that up as an example, as how it can't be done that way, where
Right.
we have to be more diligent on how the space is being used. And to Matt's point too, I think all three of us in the meeting agree that it would be wonderful to have the space with the amount of forest and land, how it is, and as open as possible and open to people of the town, and not developed or changed in any way by the new owners of those properties if it were to go forward. It's a lot of what ifs. So
Yes.
I was really excited about this, because it would be great to work on and have like a model open space development that it's like, yes, you could do this and cluster these houses together and have this open space. And there's not many other places in Wakefield we could do that.
You're right. There aren't very,
Right.
very few. Thank you very much for taking my question.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. I was going to bring up town meeting, but I don't have to. There is one thing I do want to share, and unless Erin, if you want to share it, it's about the town. Our Wakefield Planning Board has a new addition to the site.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a quick comment, just following up on Ms. Delavolpe's question?
Sure, Mr. Chimes, go ahead.
Just very briefly, I just wanted to stress that there is no plan at this point for what to do with the Woods subdivision lot. And so I know that, Councilor Donaco has approached Mr. Spalding and Mr. Lowry with some questions, but as the community, we haven't made the decision whether to sell the land, what we would want to sell it for. And so it's great that we're starting to think about what we want as a town there, but I just want to make sure that there's clarity from the public that whatever ends up happening with that land is still quite a ways off, and will require a lot more discussion before there's any semblance of a definitive plan.
Thank you. That's important to add. Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs going on. I really hope it does come back to the planning board for an open space development. But you're right. There's a lot that has to, about the land being sold and whatever might happen with it. Thank you. Erin, do you want to discuss this, or do you want me to?
Either or, it does not matter.
Okay, well, Erin's been working a lot behind the scenes, and she's been working with our town communication person, Jen McDonald, and really trying to do a few things where, as you know, planning board members, the emails are set up, but it's just not all set up here yet. We're waiting to make sure it's all what we want it to be. There's a new tab, subdivision of land forms. So when you click on this, now we have form A, B, and C here. And then this is just a start. And this is what Jen can do for us. Should there be another tab for other things and other types of reference pieces here, this would be great feedback that we can give to Erin and Jen. Not just tonight, but anytime.
Yeah, can I just chime in? So Jen, yeah, me and Jen have connected on this, and the email was the first start. And after seeing some other towns, especially a few of the members here sent me some websites, I realized that we need to make it a little easier for our community, development community that wants to build here. Because right now, if you go, you have no idea where you're going. So I think the first thing is applications, and Jen's going to work on making those fillable applications. So if you go to the ZBA website, you can see how you can fill it in there. I mean, you still have to print it out right now and bring it in, but it makes it a little easier for the applicant. We also have a subdivision submittal checklist, which I believe Paul put together, which tells you step by step what you need to do. Oh yeah, so you're playing with the ZBA. So right now you can fill that in. So hopefully down the road, I just told Jen, just get what we have right now online, and then we can work on that as we go forward. But we have the submittal checklist, which we're going to be adding as well as a tab. Also the filing fee schedule will be on there as well. And the subdivision of land procedures, rules and regulations, which you see in our bylaws of kind of the step-by-step we have to do with each application. But I would love to hear from, I know this has been kind of an important thing for some people. And as me, if I went to this website, I'd have no idea where to start. So if anyone has any comments or feedback or anything they'd like to add, I'd really appreciate it.
I want to first say thank you. And does anybody have any comments? I know, I guess I have one more. Matt, thank you for sharing the town of Southborough, I believe it was, that I passed that on.
Mm-hmm. Northborough, Southborough, Westborough, one of those boroughs.
One of those boroughs, yeah.
But yeah, for right now, I think it's just getting it online. And then I think working with Jen and working with you, all of you, making it a better version and a bigger picture. I've had conversation with Gail at the ZBA, Susan, as well as Sherry on how we can streamline this process a little better moving forward. I can't say that's going to happen tomorrow or in a month or two, but I think long-term, we could all make our lives a little easier by having submittals online. And so yeah, any feedback would be really appreciated.
Yeah, Erin, I appreciate you doing this. I'm actually writing up a process on hopefully how Wakefield's can be. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I've run into this at a couple other towns that I've had to file things at that I have followed all their written rules only to find out they have other ones that are written, but they aren't published. And, at the last moment, I'm scrambling to revise my plans and get them in for a deadline of a meeting that was not posted and things like that. So I'm learning from my experiences, and I'm trying to put together a document that hopefully at some point it can be wordsmithed and maybe put on there. So anyone, wishing to file something knows exactly when it needs to be in and the times and all that. So, we had a issue where we had to scramble and wet stamp so many copies that were going to go to a town, and I knew for a fact that none of the board members were probably going to get them. And why is this being done? But that's the process they have, and they're following their process. So we can make some exceptions during, not normal times. And I think if we have that publicized, we'll be a lot further ahead than I think most towns out there. So thank you for working on this.
Yeah, no problem. I just think it's such a great time to be working on this because I think the way that we work and submit, I always joke that towns and municipalities, no offense to anyone on the call, are a little behind everything else. And I just think Town of Wakefield has done a really great job with the permitting and licensing and everything else. But if we can kind of bring this up to speed as well and kind of streamline the process for any development, and I think will be very helpful to not only you guys, but just the public in general. So.
Sorry, Jonathan, do you have your hand up from before or is it now?
Sorry, that was from before.
Okay, I'll lower it. My participant, it was hidden behind another window, sorry. Thanks, Matt. Any other comments from the board on the website?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm just wondering what the time frame is for when the email addresses are going to be up there.
I would say probably by the end of the month. I just want to make sure everything looks right on the website with all these other forms before I'm not going to call this a finished product by any means. But I would imagine now that we have that, it might be one of the last things we put up.
So by the
I'll notify everyone.
Yeah, because I'd like to start using the email address.
I mean, I can work with Jen tomorrow and get those all linked if that's what you guys want. I just was hoping to have all the other information up before, but it doesn't matter either way, to be honest. So I'll leave it up to you guys. If you'd like that up now, I can do that tomorrow or this week.
So when you say set up, you mean post them on the website, or?
Yeah, so it would be
Okay.
linked to your email now, so people could. So then you just have to be. You'd have to check it.
Okay, because I did go in and explore a little bit. There is a forwarding feature, so if someone doesn't necessarily want to go check this email, that it will automatically forward to another email address, and I
Correct.
put that in, and it doesn't seem to be working right now, so
Okay.
I'll have to try that again. So
Well, yeah, let me know, and then I can check in with IT as well.
okay.
Right.
So, you know, if people don't want to have another email address, you can have people send it to that, and then it will automatically send it along to whatever.
Right, and I know I shared this before, but the Outlook web app, and you would have your username and your password, and you would sign in similar to what I have here for the Outlook web for the planning board. And there is a way to go ahead and forward, like I have this forwarded, so it does go to my my personal account too. That way, if I do see something, I check it.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I think it's all gonna be a work in progress. Like I said, we've had talks about using Viewpoint maybe down the road for submittals of applications, but that's a conversation I have to have with town council about Tom Mullen about bylaws and all that. So I just figure right now this is a good start, and then we can kind of take it from here. So
I agree. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other board members have items not anticipated? Okay. Well, this 2 meetings in a row before 8 o'clock.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, sorry, the meeting's over. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Attorney
McGrail?
Yeah, if I may, Brian McGrail, I just want to point something out because some comments were made on Carriage Lane, just so there's not misinformation. That project was permitted quite a while ago, and I don't
Right.
think any of the board members, that was back in 2007, actually sat on that. And it was talked about that the open space should have been for public. That was not the case.
Right.
The planning board specifically at that time decided that it was going to be a visual amenity, and the open space was only going to be recreational for the residents in the subdivision. And that's specifically recorded at the Registry of Deeds as part of the planning board decision back in 2007. Now, the planning board does have authority under your under the bylaw to, you know, so you talked about Butler Ave, that it could be open space.
Right.
But in that particular subdivision, because of the nature of the open space, it was decided by the board at the time not to make it open to the public.
Right. Was it because of how tight the subdivision was and the amount of backyard space they had? Was that the reason why?
Yeah, I mean, what the board said, you know, it's interesting, what the board said in its decision is, and I'll read from the decision, the open space shown on the concept plan and the definitive subdivision plan consisting of 88,000 square feet shall be perpetually preserved as open space. Corporation or trust owned jointly in common by the owners within the development shall own the open space, which is the case. Ownership shall be in perpetuity and pass with the conveyance of the lots, meaning, you know, somebody can't sell their share.
Right.
When they sell their lot, it goes with whoever buys it. It shall be subject to a recorded restriction and easement enforceable by the town in the form satisfactory for the board, providing that the land shall be perpetually kept in open state, and it shall be maintained in a manner which will ensure its suitability for its intended purpose as a visual amenity and as a place for recreational use for owners of the lots in the subdivision.
Right. Thanks
So-
for that clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted that because I didn't want misinformation out there that something, you know, should have happened and it didn't happen. That was
Right. And
not the,
sorry if I misspoke on it. I know talking to Mr. Donaco about it, I think it was more of a, they learned a lesson from that one. That
yeah, I think there
moving
was
forward-
debate. Yeah, there was debate on afterwards what was done in the open space, and there was
Right.
enforcement issues that I think some current board members were involved in or familiar about, but it was never intended that it was going to be open to the public or contemplated or required.
Thanks. And I think in past town meetings, I've also heard the comments about drones being flown up above to see what the open space was being used as. And I know that was a comical relief at one point during one of the town meetings, but
Yeah, and it's interesting, the history on that, that subdivision was done at a time that open space developments were required in the town. It was a requirement that you had to do a special permit and basically do it. And then what happened was the town of Westwood actually used the same consultant that the town of Wakefield did when that bylaw was written. And the town of Westwood had somebody who owned land that challenged it, that it violated state law and property rights.
right.
And the land court, I believe, overturned it and said the bylaw was not legal. And then it was upheld in the appeals court that it was not legal. And what happened was, because it was basically a mirror image of our bylaw, town council recommended that the board take it to town meeting and make it an optional instead of mandatory. So now it's optional. So all the stuff that you talked about on what could happen on Butler Ave certainly can under the bylaw and is legal and could be made open to the public under the bylaw.
Right.
But I just wanted to point out that this was not the case when Carrie's Lane was done.
That's good. And it brings up a really good discussion that we don't have to have tonight, but it makes me wonder, what is the advantage to a developer or contractor to actually do it when they don't have to? So
Well, that was the court case, because the court case basically said that you have a right to subdivide your land and use your land. And then what happened was, you know, open space developments were kind of a popular thing back in the early 2000s. And they started, you know, consultants started coming up with these requirements. And basically the court said, no, you can't force somebody to do a
Right.
special permit process when they legally have the right to subdivide their land under chapter 81. You can give them incentives to do it. You can make it an option to do it, but you can't require them to do it.
right. Right. And I guess the hope would be is to make the process easier for a developer or contractor to go through the open space development. Yeah. Well, I'm just really hoping that the Butler Ave project does come our way. And
I think on Butler Ave, the town has, you know, the town's driving the bus because the town owns the land.
yeah,
So the town can require that, you know, and say
Right.
this has to be an open space development. So it's not, you know, it's not private property. So in the tools are in the bylaw for that to happen. So if the town council wants to go that route, if they decide, as Councilor Chine said, whatever they decide,
right.
I think there's going to be a lot of great options for the town because, you know, we as a town are in control of that property. We own it.
Right now we do. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Attorney McGrail. Thanks. Any other comments from the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Joanne, do you want to adjourn us?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
All right,
It's
thanks,
nice,
Matt.
nice having someone else make motions, so. I'm glad.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.